marked by chaos, today was the day to try and clean it all up. We'll take you on a tour of the area to see how much damage Wednesday's snowstorm did. And it was another snow day for students, so should you expect a third tomorrow?
Connecting you in high definition, this is KEZI 9 News at 6.
More cleanup from yesterday's storms. A lot of it resulted from those downed trees. Good evening, I'm Brian Richardson.
And I'm Brady Smith. Hundreds of trees came down in the storm, but one type in particular had a really hard time with the snow. KEZI 9 News reporter Lauren Michler is live with our top story at 6. Lauren?
Hey guys, the trees you see behind me, those are ornamental plum trees, and they've really taken a toll from the storm this week, but they've been coming down, but neighbors say they still really enjoy the flowers and hope to see them back in the spring.
Usually right now they're starting to get the fruit on them.
Fruit, though, is no longer in the forecast for hundreds of trees like these, after many of them split, cracked, or simply fell over during Wednesday's surprise snowstorm.
And we were walking down the street and we'd see them snapping right before us, and we would look under them and you could see big snaps on them.
The blossoms were so many blossoms on the tree, and then it just weighted it down too much.
I had a long piece of lumber and I was just reaching way up in there and just trying to knock the snow off and lift the weight off them before any more broke.
There's a tree on North Terry. I think it's like the second tree down, but it's all uprooted. It's like totally come out of the ground, and the branches and stuff have like fallen into the street.
It's like, it almost looks like a hurricane or something had came through and just knocked them all down.
Not a hurricane, but 7 inches of heavy wet snow that turned out to be too much for the early bloomers.
It's a species characteristic combined with the fact that we have snow at an unusually late time, and that characteristic will take a plum tree down or parts of a plum tree down.
The result? Neighborhoods frosted with snow, topped with pink and purple petals like sprinkles. Their branches covered streets, sidewalks, and driveways. And flowers neighbors usually love to see turned into a bit of a hassle.
It's covering the sidewalk and the bike lane, so we'll have to get somebody to come out and take care of it.
A lot of cars were having like difficulty going through them and stuff, but it was just crazy to see so many down.
Mostly neighbors seem sad to see one of the sole signs of springtime so beaten up. But the good news is
they'll grow back. They'll grow back.
Nathaniel Sperry, the arborist I talked to in that story, says if you have a bunch of these ornamental plums, which a lot of people do in Eugene and Springfield, he says to call somebody who knows what they're doing and be careful if you're going to try and cut down the limbs yourself. Live in Eugene, Lauren Michler, KEZI 9 News.
Those trees, coupled with snow, seem to cause the most damage to homes, garages, and even carports. KEZI 9 News reporter Jennifer Richardson is live in the studio to show us some of that damage in Eugene. Jennifer?
Driving around town, pretty much every corner you turn, you'll find a tree down or lots of branches littering the streets. The Park Apartments, though, took a beating from Mother Nature. A number of carports collapsed from the combination of trees and snow. Some residents say they saw a lot of insurance adjusters out surveying the damage. There are also a lot of trees strewn through the ground, some damaging the apartments' gutters after falling on the roofs. Another homeowner near the apartment saw this tree here crash through their backyard, crushing their fence, and the South Hills also littered with trees.
It kind of looks like a, like a war zone in some parts of town.
Looks like there were several carports, and we had a tree on our apartment, but we got lucky that it just hurt the gutters.
Power lines there. Some residents in the hills tell us they are still without power, and a lot of the areas that were hit and that have the downed trees we noticed are taped off with caution tape around town to alert people of the dangers. Reporting live in the studio, Jennifer Richardson, KEZI 9 News.
Public Works crews in Springfield have worked tirelessly to clean up downed trees there. KEZI 9 News reporter Kelsey Card is live where one fell. Kelsey?
Guys, this tree went down yesterday morning, and the owners, they weren't even here. They're out of town. But I spoke with neighbors here and Thurston area residents to get a feel for how the storm has affected them.
Yay, the snow is falling. It's, I mean, when do you ever get this in Eugene and Springfield? Only up in the mountains, and then, oh, crud. Their house got squashed by a tree.
Down branches and trees, what do you think about that?
It's scary. It's dangerous.
It was pretty scary. There you have 2 cars back there that are just totally wrecked, and their roof is pretty shot. And we live right over here, and half the tree is threatening to fall over on the duplex.
A lot of trees broke above us, but no damage that I'm aware of, except my corner neighbor at tree fell and broke his fence in a couple spots. Except for minor bushes, we fared pretty well.
The dogs are okay, the cats are okay, the squirrels aren't happy.
And Springfield Public Works crews say they've tackled about 50 trees today. This tree here behind me will be tackled tomorrow morning by a private contractor. Reporting live in Springfield, Kelsey Card, KEZI 9 News.
Bethel students got an extension to their spring break thanks to yesterday's storm. A furlough day planned for tomorrow means they won't be back in class for more than a week. But at 4J in Springfield, that's still up in the air. The district's canceled classes yesterday and today because of all the snow on the road and at schools like Buena Vista Elementary.
We're out early in the morning checking the roads all across our district. 4J covers 155 square miles and a lot of very different terrain. We need to be able to get to all of our schools safely.
4J in Springfield also canceled all afternoon and evening events today. That means Churchill's Mr. Lancer pageant, along with all the other activities, will be postponed. And tonight at 6:30, the University of Oregon didn't shut down yesterday despite nearly 8 inches of snow and more than a dozen downed trees. Hear from university visitors, employees, and students about why classes must go on. Coming up on KEZI 9 News at 6:30.
The snow hit Benton County pretty hard these past few days as well. As much as 7 inches of snow dropped in and around Corvallis. Some of the area's oldest trees couldn't handle the weight. KEZI 9 News reporter Heather Turner shows us some of that damage.
Well, just take a look at the damage to this large ash tree right in the middle of Avery Park. Parks and Rec crews say these large limbs just couldn't handle all the heavy snow and snapped under its weight. City crews worked countless hours clearing fallen trees from roads. But some of these larger ones are here to stay, at least for a little while.
After the snow goes away and we kind of have a little bit of time to breathe here, we'll start making the circle back and we'll start tackling certain trees.
Parks and Rec crews say the grounds are too wet to bring equipment in to haul them out without damaging the grass.
To avoid tearing them up, we're going to wait until the snow melts and we get some of the soil saturation out of there, and then we'll start dragging the brush to the roads and chipping it up.
So instead, they've placed barriers around the trees,
trying to let the public know that there's a hazard there.
At the Benton County Fairgrounds, a large white oak also couldn't withstand the storms.
The maintenance crew said they heard a screeching noise and a big thump.
It, too, is now lying on its side. Although the fair manager knew it would happen sometime, he says it's still sad to see the tree go.
People really enjoying them during fair, for the shade. So, there's many more trees, but not quite like this one. And it's a sad day because we've lost part of the fairgrounds.
Parks and Rec crews say it'll take them about a month to get all of these big trees cleaned up and out of the parks. In Corvallis, Heather Turner, KEZI 9 News.
Part of Highway 36 is closed tonight after an overnight landslide. The snow was too much for some trees near Triangle Lake, and when they went down, they brought the hillside with them. ODOT crews blocked off about a mile of the highway with signs at each end of the closure to warn drivers. Then they got to work cleaning up the mess.
We'll kind of cut the logs up into manageable pieces and we'll pull them down here to the stockpile site. There is a little bit of dirt associated, some stumps, and we'll also put those in the stockpile.
ODOT crews say they hope to have the cleanup finished by this evening.
Now, your first forecast with Chief Meteorologist Justin Stapleton.
Yeah, it was one of the trouble spots today out on 36. As we said, as I mentioned in 5, the Southern Valley actually only saw about an inch or so here on the valley floor, a little more up towards Corvallis, Philomath, Albany, Harrisburg. They actually saw most of the snow most of the day and evening. Didn't switch back over to rain. Right now, it's pretty quiet out there. We've got one little batch between Corvallis and Newport out on Highway 20, just north of that, actually. And then another one out into the Central Cascades working their way northward. A couple of little ripples out there, but the temperatures of what we'll be watching tonight. We're now in the low 40s in Corvallis and Eugene. We're going to flip into the 30s tonight, and you can see some of those clear skies starting to carve out to the central and south coast. Those will be very important as we head to the overnight hours as well. And that'll likely put us below freezing and thus we'll see some slick roadways once again, but we'll also, if we clear out, start to see some freezing fog here in the central and the southern Willamette Valley. So as the storm tracker continues to show most of those showers pushing north and out of the forecast, as we go overnight tonight, we'll see those temperatures drop close to freezing, and that's when we'll kick off the freezing fog, likely after midnight, and will be a bit of an impact for your Friday morning commute. But the good news is that may be the last impact we have in terms of icy, cold precipitation, at least for a part of the weekend. I'll tell you what looks to be somewhat of a drier weekend forecast. That's all coming up next.
As of 11 this morning, EWEB still had 4,300 customers without power. Also, as of this evening, EPUD is still working to repair outages affecting a few thousand customers, and Lane Rural still has about 6,000 customers without power. The snow has made it tough on drivers at times, but even more difficult on folks who rely on other methods to get around. KEZI 9 News reporter Chris Curtis shows us the impact the snow has had on the biking community.
A storm that dumped more than 7.5 inches of snow in Eugene made downtown seem more like a ghost town, leaving the Collins Cycle Shop void of customers today and yesterday.
There wasn't a lot of foot traffic in, and they had to focus on some of our winter projects that we've been working on.
Derek, an avid biker, rides his bike into work every day and was prepared for the storm's second punch, a hit that never really came.
I did ride my mountain bike in, thinking that I might need a little bit extra traction and bigger tire, but it really was unnecessary.
So after the intense storm that bore down on the valley floor on Wednesday, Derek says he thinks business will soon pick back up.
It's a little closer to normal. It's still a little slow. I think there are a lot of people who are a little hesitant to get out on the bike, but still seeing a lot of people in the door.
Now, even though the snowstorm on Wednesday crippled many businesses downtown in Eugene, looks like things are getting back to normal and the cleanup process is beginning. Reporting in Eugene, Chris Curtis, KEZI 9 News.
It's a big mess, and it's still a big mess. It's going to be a lot of work.
One of the surprising things about this storm was how few houses were hit by falling trees, but there were a few unlucky ones.
We'll take you to one home that had a tree come down straight on it, creating what crews call a taco effect. And do you have a tip or story idea? We want to hear it. You can always email us at listens@kezi.com or call us at 284-KEZI.
Connecting you. This is KEZI 9 News at 6 with Brandy Smith, Ryan Richardson, and Chief Meteorologist Justin Stapleton.
Another home falls victim to a tree, this time in Cheshire, just off Highway 99. KEZI 9 News reporter Na Wynn headed to there to see that damage.
People everywhere are continuing to deal with the aftermath of yesterday's heavy snowfall, including the owner of this home right behind me. Yesterday's weather was out of the ordinary for most folks in the area, including homeowner Tom Dash.
This is unusual. We haven't had this much snow in quite a long time.
And while he didn't expect the snow, he certainly didn't bet on a 67-foot oak and its fur friend to come crashing through his guest room.
I had just come out to feed the dog, and I heard this crackling noise, and I thought, well, there goes a big one, and then bam, it hit the house. And sure enough, it was a big one.
Arborists said they definitely had their plate filled with so many places like this around town.
These storms just throw it'd be like a huge wave of work, it's overwhelming, chaotic.
But despite the big mess and inconvenience, Kadash was just grateful no one was in the room when it happened.
It's probably best that it fell on that room rather than one of the ones we were living in.
And the owner of this home says he hopes to have the tree cleared out and the building tarped over by the end of the day. Here in Cheshire, Na Wynn, KEZI 9 News.
Even though it missed out on Wednesday, Portland got its share of snow last night. Close to 2 inches fell on the Rose City. The storm there knocked down hundreds of trees and left thousands of people without power, much like we saw here. And in Salem, the accumulations were closer to what they were further south, about 5 inches of snow.
I'm just snowboarding out here because I don't get to see the mountains very often, so this is kind of a nice change of weather.
So I looked out the window because I looked out the window last night and it was snowing hard. And once we woke up, it was a big, just snow everywhere.
No serious injuries were reported in either city as a result of the snowstorm.
Yeah, no, the kids certainly enjoying the last couple of days off of school. Parents pulling their hair out by now. Are we going to see school tomorrow? I'll let you know that, and we'll see if we can't get those temperatures a little more spring-like as we go into your weekend forecast. I'll have that next.
Now, Storm Tracker 9 weather with Chief Meteorologist Justin Stapleton.
All right, let's take a peek what's happening outside right now. I know a lot of folks have been enjoying the snow. Today we saw more slush than we saw snow, at least here in the southern Willamette Valley. In the Central Valley, Corvallis, Albany, Philomath, Tangent, that's not the case. They actually saw a lot of the snow last night as most of the snow lines were pushing north up to Salem and Portland. Up around the Rose City got a good couple of inches too. And not only that, up towards Timberline Lodge, you can't even see half of the lodge if you happen to check out the webcam. It looks very similar to what it saw if you ever watched the movie The Shining back in 1980, those scenes where it's just kind of piled up on top of it. Pretty much the story of what we saw today. Now that said, everybody's going to want to get out to the mountains. Tomorrow we've got a much better forecast for that. A couple of light snow showers, the Central Cascades now. You're starting to see the winds to pull them out of the south. That started late last night and it's continued on to today. The passes are looking good. There's lots of roadside snow. But in terms of the actual roads themselves, a little slippery at Willamette, and same thing at Santiam Pass. Otherwise, should not be any troubles. You still have to make sure you've got the chains or the traction tires if you headed on up into the mountains. Now, Willamette Pass, they're at around 31 inches for their base. Picked up about an inch. We had about 5 inches at the pass itself on 58. Hoodoo got 41 inches, one of the big winners over the last 48 hours. 9 inches at Bachelor. It's got them about 159, and about a foot up at Timberline. They are now at 205 inches for their base. Now, the flip side of that, down south in the southern part of the viewing area in Douglas County and out towards Coos County, we've had flood concerns. There's more rain on the way Sunday, but we'll get a bit of a break, and that's good news for not only the Coquille River at Coquille that is about 4.5 feet above its flood stage, the Coquille near Myrtle Point, which you can see is about 2 feet above flood stage, and then again the Willamette near Harrisburg, one that we're watching. It's likely going to crest late tonight at about 13 and some change, so it should stay under flood stage, but still one that we'll be watching in the river gauges as well. 41 degrees in Corvallis and Eugene. You can see on the visual satellite behind us there, we're starting to break up some of the cloud cover. Today's highs just a tad warmer, upper to mid-40s across the region as opposed to mid-30s yesterday under the snowy forecast. Overnight tonight, I'm going to keep us in the upper 20s, so a chilly start to the morning, right around freezing out in Coos Bay and Roseburg, but the freezing fog will be a bit of an issue for the Central Valley. Now, I apologize, we're having some data interruptions here from the National Weather Service, but you can see the low that's starting to form out in the Central Pacific, and this is going to actually cut off and move south and take most of the wet and sort of stormy weather with it. So as we go in towards the next couple of days, we'll dry out tomorrow morning. Starting off with fog, we'll get back to partly sunny skies by the afternoon. We'll see these rain bands just kind of briefly move into southern Oregon, and they'll bring some cloud cover for us. And as they get a little closer to Northern California by Saturday night, we'll start to rotate some of those inland and up towards our neck of the woods. But I think we'll see a maybe almost total 48 hours dry time between tomorrow and Saturday's forecast. Sunday, we'll start to see that, low moving into Northern California. And the next week, we're back to the rain train as we'll get a series of systems moving in off of the ocean. So low 50s in the Umpqua tomorrow as well. Fog in the morning, partly sunny by the afternoon. Then a warm up. That's the good news. We're not going to see the really bone chilling cold air, but we will see things a little on the wet side as we head into next week. Partly sunny skies in the Cascades. Cascade passes will be passable. Mid to upper 40s in the foothills. Bend and Redmond, they'll see an isolated mix from time to time. Otherwise sunny skies. Temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. Then into the mid and upper 50s by the weekend. And will likely stay kind of mild as we head into next week. And here in the valley, morning freezing fog. We'll see partly sunny skies tomorrow afternoon. Still continuing to climb closer to average. 57 is where we should be. We were like 37 yesterday, so about 20 degrees below that. Then as we get into the weekend, a tad warmer, but the showers start to move back. And the good news is, as I said, even though we'll stay wet next week, guys, those overnight lows stay well above freezing, so we don't have to deal at least with that. Give folks a chance tomorrow and maybe Saturday to get out and just kind of clean out some of those tree limbs that are all over the place.
How long do you think it's going to take for a lot of that snow to go ahead and melt?
A lot of it, I think, will be gone by tomorrow. We're going to have a good 24 hours of dry time, and so as soon as we get above freezing tomorrow and the sun comes out, especially in the afternoon, we're really going to see the runoff start.
Our trampoline is covered with about 6 inches of snow, and it's
just
impossible to get rid
in the middle,
of.
doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's going to have to melt off.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
You got it.
Eugene police officers say one of their officers was attacked yesterday by a drunk driver. EPD says Officer Jim McBride and another officer were trying to give Vance DeWitt a sobriety test, but when they tried to handcuff him, he allegedly put up a fight. The struggle knocked McBride to the ground.
It was just kind of an ugly combination when you get all those things together. When you got the bad driving conditions plus your impairment, it can spell disaster.
The other officer involved tasered DeWitt twice to get him under control. McBride went to the hospital with a head injury, but he got out today.
LTD released the results of a study it did on the expansion plans of the EMX line into West Eugene. According to the poll, Eugene residents have mixed opinions. LTD surveyed 400 Eugene registered voters. They say 50% support the expansion, 45% oppose it. Most of the people who like the idea said they believe it will allow people of all incomes, age, and disability to move throughout the community. The main reasons for opposition is money. It's expected to cost about $95 million.
Today was supposed to be the busiest day at the Eugene airport since fans flew to Arizona to watch the Ducks in the national championship game. 1,600 passengers were booked to depart out of Eugene today. That's about 500 more than average. Despite all the snow, the runways have been kept clear and safe, so there haven't been any cancellations or significant delays because of the weather.
Coming up, all the snow is giving kids a chance to test out their artistic sides.
One group of youngsters went a step beyond your standard snowman. See what they set out to build on their day off.
Today marked the second day this week kids got to stay home from school because of the weather.
KEZI 9 News photojournalist Jay Cruz caught up with one group of kids who used the opportunity to test out their engineering skills.
My kids were like, can we go outside and play? And I said, yeah, sure. And we decided to do a big igloo. It was kind of like a group thing.
We spent a few hours making an igloo. I was actually trying to build a ramp so I could slide down it. So slide the igloo on top of it. I liked it when we built a snowman in an igloo. Parents helped and kids helped and it was just here's the shovel.
We started to do a snowman, like a big, what I thought was a snowman, and then all of a sudden the kids were like, let's do an igloo. And one of the moms had said an igloo was a great idea, so we started stacking it up and we just started rolling snowballs together and formed it out to an igloo. It's great to see that these kids all came together on a snowy day. School's closed. We could be inside doing video games, everything else, but no, they're out here. They did something productive. And to top it all off, we had a neighborhood, an older lady come out with hot chocolate cups and marshmallows. It's just exciting. It warms my heart. It melts my heart to see, you know, all of us come together and all the neighbors and with the hot chocolate, and it's great. This is great. This is a great day.
Of course they're outside in the snow. You don't get to see it here very often.
You have to. It's fun to get out there and play and even smash a snowball on somebody's head if they're doing a TV interview. Across the valley, people are still battling the after effects of the storm.
We'll take a look at who's still without power and when it might be back on.